Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday. It's March 6th. It is 2024. We have an 8-game NBA slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my good buddy, Keith Eister, Eys819. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
Not too much. Another fun, exciting NBA slate to talk about here. Definitely getting to be that time of year where injuries and rest days and things like that are becoming crazy. So had a wild news slate on Tuesday night. Probably going to have another wild one here for Wednesday with a bunch of teams on back-to-back. Shout out to Dean Wade. I don't know if you saw what he did, but he outscored the Celtics by himself in the fourth quarter as Cleveland came back and pulled off a huge upset as they were shorthanded.
Yeah, we talked about him on the podcast yesterday and kind of brushed him off. Silly us. Who knew he was going to score 23 actual points and hit 6 threes? And like you said, a lot of that came in the fourth quarter. So,
Mobley injury obviously helped him get there, but we're definitely going to have to talk about that situation here in a couple games.
Yeah, we have a lot of back-to-backs. We jinxed it yesterday on the podcast. Me and Tim were talking about how we didn't have a lot of back-to-backs. Well, shame on us. We have 5 back-to-backs here, and it's all like very front-end heavy. The only good thing about like front-end back-to-backs is like we should have a lot of the news ahead of time. So, yeah, Abaji got hurt, Derek. Very unfortunate. He got hurt his knee in the first half of the game, tried to play through it and tried to come back in the third quarter and play like 1 or 2 minutes and then left the game for good. So I don't know how much better he would have done. He wasn't shooting as much as he was the other night, but he probably would have scored, hopefully 8 to 12 more fantasy points. So kind of stunk that he got hurt. Gary Trent always stinks. Toronto in general was awful in that game. So luckily, quickly though, got us his assist prop, and Banchero got us his point prop. So, 2 for 1, 2 for 3, 2 for 3, 2 and 1, 2 for 3, because we missed the Philly game because they stink. All right. What's up, YouTube? Hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday night. I know I'm having a pretty good night. It would be a lot better if DiVincenzo scored 1 more point, but I'm having a good night. NHL, and I know I say this from time to time, but if you have scores and odds and you're not betting the NHL props for the prop model, you're missing out. The NHL prop model, and I tweeted about this yesterday, it's so good. Like, I don't even know what the numbers are on the season for the prop model, but they're definitely crushing because I've made a lot of money on betting NHL and I watch 0 NHL. So yeah, just absolutely love it. But
yeah, same here. I don't watch any NHL either, but whatever the prop model put up, or really any of the experts either. Also, like the NHL team is just incredible. So tailing anything they throw up there, and it's not just like there's some big juice on block shots, but there's also big plus money on some of them too, and it just doesn't seem to matter. Like whether it's favored or kind of a long shot, it just always seems to hit. So shout out to the team there.
Yeah, they're absolutely crushing over there. All right. Derek says March 11th, he gets to start playing the squad ride. So I'm guessing he's in North Carolina. If you are in North Carolina, head on over to RotoGrinders.com and you can pre-register for the sports books and use our codes. So yeah, we appreciate that. So thank you. Go pre-register. I'm excited for North Carolina. Traveled to North Carolina a lot, so I'm very excited to be able to bet while I'm in North Carolina. So, but there's all kinds of like pre-register bonuses and stuff. If you go to rotogrinders.com on the left-hand side and you click offers and click North Carolina, you could take advantage of those bonuses. So make sure you guys are doing that over there on the RG page. Yeah, squad ride, March 11th. Hey, March 11th is a good day, by the way. That's my birthday, so there you go.
Nice.
Welcome to North Carolina.
Speaking of squad rides, Meansy on a nice little streak there. So
I know, love to see it. Got another hockey one. I love it. Dane was all over that one. There was a lot of discussion about that one over there on the RG Slack. So it was good times. Love when we can hit those. But all right, let's talk some hoops. We get started with Orlando at Washington. 224.5 total. In this one, Orlando's a 7-point favorite. Very oddly, we have Orlando's injury report, even though they're on a back-to-back, which I thought was really interesting. Gary Harris is questionable. Isaac is questionable. in this one. So we'll be paying attention to those two. Isaac, I feel like they're going to be on the very careful side with him. So I wouldn't be shocked if he sits. And then we know on the Washington side, Bagley's out and Livers is out. So let's go to Orlando here first. Banchero is someone I kind of like in this spot. I think this is a really good matchup for him. He's had okay games against this team. Franz is another one that I don't mind here. Franz has actually crushed this team this year. He's just having a stellar season against Washington. And then I think Wendell Carter Jr., like, keep talking about his price. He's still at this like favorable price tag where he has upside. He's not going to show it every night, but he has upside at this price point. I think he had a solid game. He was like one rebound away from getting like the double-double bonus. He only scored like 12 points, but he still has enough upside at this price point.
Yeah, really good spot for the Magic here. They are like the best team in the league as far as like putting out their lineups and their injury news. Like they're always like hours ahead of every other team. So shout out to them. That's much appreciated for guys that are making decisions behind the scenes on what to do with those things. So they're like the Cincinnati Reds of baseball. The Reds always put their lineup out super early. The Magic are very similar. So good for them. I would love to be able to fade this game just because it's an island game on a bigger slate. But the matchup against Washington, I don't think that's really possible. It's a really good spot for Orlando. I like the same three guys you do. Their backcourt is just a mess to try to figure out. A bunch of guys just playing like mid-20s, low-20s minutes. But Paolo looks really good. Franz looks really good. I am a little bit concerned about minutes for Wendell Carter Jr. He did play 29 on Tuesday night, so that was good to see. But now that it's a back-to-back, a little bit concerning.
He
at his
recently,
price point,
for what it's worth, really quick, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to interrupt you because that's what I do. Sorry. He recently, right before the All-Star break, played a back-to-back and played 22 and then 34 minutes. And the 22 minutes was on the front end. So you might be onto something here with him. Maybe he plays a little bit more with only playing 29 minutes. Maybe it's like a 29 minute type of thing. But you might be onto something with Wendell Carter on the back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of interest because it's a fantastic matchup. Washington, the worst rebounding team in the league, so he could easily get 12 boards in this spot. Wouldn't surprise me. At 5,400, if I knew he was going to play even 28 minutes, I'd definitely be in on that. But a little bit of risk there, but I'll probably take chances on him.
The other situation we should talk about is Gary Harris. He probably sits in this one from what I was reading. And I think Fultz plays. Fultz was just like the front end of a back-to-back type of thing. Do we like, I don't know if even with that like news that Harris might sit, Orlando likes Anthony Black. He's just not producing enough with the minutes. I think I'm just going to pass on this. Like you said, just pass on this guard situation.
Yeah, it's too tough to figure out. We've got a big enough slate. I mean, I think one of them probably gets there, but deciding whether it's going to be Suggs or Anthony or Black that gets the run, it's just not been a fun endeavor this season. So I'll probably just set it out.
You need Anthony to have like a week of bad games to get back down to like 4,500, like 40 to 4,500, and we would be talking about him way more. Let's go to the Washington side. I mean, no Bagley in this game. I don't think they're going to want to run out like Rashawn Holmes for a ton of minutes. I think Denny and Kuzma are going to have to play a bunch of minutes in this game. What are your thoughts here on Washington?
Yeah, I don't love the matchup against Orlando, but the Bagley injury definitely matters. I think Holmes probably starts, but I'm with you that he may not play more than like 20, 22 minutes. I think you could still take shots on him at that price, 3,800 on DK. He's still in play, but again, I'd be concerned about that they're just going to push him out there for 28, 30 minutes. I don't see that happening. It certainly could, and it's that upside that I think you play him in tournaments. Kuzma is the guy who could see a massive rebounding boost, even Avdia as well. Like both of those guys could be in for double-digit rebounds. So I don't mind taking shots on them. We've talked about the Poole role coming off the bench several times. Usage is way up. Even the minutes have been up since moving to the bench. I don't know if it's the matchup to target him. He did just have a pretty decent game last time out against Utah, but that was a much better matchup. So I probably avoid Poole and just chase like the rebounding upside of Kuzma and Avdia with sprinkling in Holmes' value as my ways to target Washington.
Books are finally catching up on Avdia. I was looking at his line before we started when I was working on the morning grind game stuff, and he's at 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists finally.
That's a much better number. That's closer to where he should be for sure. I still think he has a good chance to go over that, but definitely not the value we were getting at like 24.5.
No, and like that's when you'll actually have to like, all right, is it worth it against Orlando? Right. Yeah, Jordan Poole's. I was looking at him too, and like with his usage that you were talking about, and I didn't see point props for him, so I think Poole closes. So like he closes both halves, second and fourth quarter now. I think that Jordan Poole is likely going to play 30 plus minutes in this game. 6K, tough matchup, but I think that Jordan Poole is someone to watch in this matchup. And I think Culleby is another guy that plays a lot of minutes in this game. If you need somebody 4,400, I think he could go for like 25 plus with a good game. So might not need it at 8K or on an 8-game slate is what I meant. All right, Cleveland at Atlanta. Both of these teams on a back-to-back. And unlike Orlando, we're not getting injury reports here for these two teams. Let's really quickly, Mobley left the game. I highly doubt he plays. He was on crutches after the game. I saw a picture. I highly doubt he plays in this game. Strus is dealing with like a knee strain. We'll have to see. And then we know that Mitchell is going to miss, they said, at least 3 games. So we know Mitchell's not going to play. And we know Mobley's likely not going to play. Strus is a question mark. And then on the Atlanta side, I mean, it's probably Okongwu. I didn't see anybody get hurt in the Atlanta game. Trae Young, we know, is out. So let's talk Cleveland. This situation obviously matters a ton because we get a matchup against Atlanta, who plays fast. Cleveland plays slow. Do the math. What are your thoughts here when it comes to Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to depend on the injury report for sure. I'm with you. I'm pretty sure Mobley's going to miss this one. Mitchell is probably listed questionable.
He's out.
He sits. Mitchell is out for sure.
They said he was going to miss 3 games, and that was yesterday. So
okay,
we know he's out today, Tuesday, and that would leave Wednesday. So
yeah, I mean, the matchup against Atlanta is incredible. So with Mitchell and assuming that Mobley is out too, I think Cleveland's going to be one of our highest exposed teams on the whole slate. I think there's a bunch of guys in play. Garland's price is coming up, but without Mitchell, he just has a ton of ceiling, even at 7,600. Mobley out matters a great deal for Jarrett Allen. We saw him find a ceiling a bunch a couple of months ago when Mobley was out. 7,300. I like him a good amount. I'm guessing Dean Wade probably jumps into the starting lineup here at 3,200 off of his absolutely scorching hot shooting night. So I don't generally like to play Dean Wade, but if he's going to be out there for 30 minutes at 3,200, I think you have to consider him. Sam Merrill probably starts if Strus is out again. That's what we saw on Tuesday night. He would be in play. Without Mobley, I don't even hate shots on Isaac Okoro, like 4,700. I mean, this is assuming that Strus is out too. To play like Okoro and Wade even, I think you want Strus out. If we get Strus in, they're still in play, but they're not quite the smashes that, as I was just talking about them. But if Strus is out, Okoro, Wade, Merrill, all 3 of those guys very much in play. Garland and Allen in play, regardless. I believe LeVert is as well.
I think Strus plays for what it's worth. I mean, everything I read when we were doing content Tuesday was it sounded more like a maintenance day for Strus. Obviously, you can't project like Mobley getting hurt early in that game. So I think Strus ends up playing, and like he sees the biggest usage bump when you take Mitchell and Mobley off the floor. It's like 5%. So might be an excellent play. Garland averages 1.2 fantasy points per minute. The guy I love is Allen. I mean, 7,300. No one really competing with him for rebounds here. I can't wait to see his like rebound prop here. Absolutely love Jarrett Allen in this spot. I think that that's not going to change throughout the day, unless he gets like a question mark out of nowhere. But love this spot here for Allen, like Garland, like LeVert. Everything you said, I'm just going to mirror it because it's my exact thoughts, and I'm losing my voice, so I'm trying not to talk as much. Let's go to the Atlanta side. Now we're taking Mitchell and Mobley out. Defense is going to be a little bit weaker. Still good defense. But this game's going to play faster, right? Like, Cleveland's going to play faster. They're going to play more to Atlanta's pace in this game because this game's in Atlanta. Does that open up anything here for Atlanta? Or are they still too priced up for a Cleveland matchup?
Yeah, I mean, DeJounte at 9,500 is tough to click, even though, like, no Trae Young, he's obviously has a much higher ceiling now, but the matchup probably prohibits me from getting there. Jalen Johnson's been incredible. I think if I was spending up, he would be the guy I would look at before DeJounte. Just save a little bit of money. He's had just as high of a ceiling of late as well. DeAndre Hunter, like, we've been waiting for these minutes to continue to come up, and they just really haven't moved off of like 25 to 28. Like, that's kind of his range. So unless he like jumps into the starting lineup or something, I don't think I can play DeAndre Hunter in this matchup. Capella, kind of the same, just not quite seeing the minutes that we want. So with the tough matchup, and again, it's not as tough of a matchup because we expect Mobley to be out, but they're still a pretty solid defense overall, even without Mobley. I think it's just Jalen Johnson. I mean, maybe Bay, but I just don't love this Atlanta side. I think Jalen Johnson's my favorite play for sure.
Yeah, I like Hunter in the prop world. Like, his point prop has been coming in at like 14.5, and I just keep pounding the over on that. I think he scored like 22. I think it was 15.5 today, or 16.5, but it was still, I thought, like at a price point we could get and take advantage of. So I'm with you. I think Johnson has similar ceiling to Murray for $1,600 less. So Murray shot 17 times. Johnson sat 17 times. Johnson had 9 rebounds and 7 assists. Scored 26 points. So I think that Johnson has similar ceiling. I think Murray still has a higher ceiling overall, but I think Johnson would be the guy to save a little bit of money. I don't know if you necessarily have to play anybody here. Memphis at Philly, 209.5 total. Philly is a 5-point favorite in this one. Philly's on a back-to-back, and then the Memphis side, Bane, Clark, Morant, Pittman, Rose, Smart, Williams, Zaire Williams, and then Triple J is questionable. On the Philly side, Embiid's out. Maxey had a mild concussion. I highly doubt he plays in this game. I think he is probably going to miss this one too with the concussion. Concussion protocol for NBA is usually like 2 to 4 days, and he actually tested for a mild concussion. So I think he'll be out for a couple games here. Let's go Memphis first. What are your thoughts here on Memphis?
Triple J news is huge. Obviously, the usage rate has been massive without Bane and Morant. So whether he plays or not is basically decides whether I'm going to target any Memphis at all. If Triple J is in, I probably just take a couple shots on Triple J and don't play anybody else. The rest of the team is just an absolute nightmare. Maybe the exception to that, Luke Kennard started at point guard last game, and Jordan Goodwin was inactive. If we get that situation again, I think you could play Kennard at 5K. It's just so difficult to figure out this rotation. If Jaren Jackson is out, I think that you could take shots on guys like Aldama, Conchar, even in that case. We saw Laravia have a pretty big game, but again, I just don't trust that they're going to even retain their same role from the last game. Like, it seems to be changing game to game. They went with Jameson inactive one game. They went with Goodwin inactive one game. They're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if they can find any useful pieces for next season at this point. So targeting this team right now is really tough. I like the matchup against Philly. I'd play some Jackson if he's in for that. Jaren Jackson, that is. If he's in for that reason, maybe some Kennard. Just a tough team to pin down at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis wants to lose games. They don't want to win games. They don't want to catch Toronto, and they would love for Charlotte to catch them. Memphis is kind of just in that spot where it's like, hey guys, let's try some stuff, but let's not win. I mean, for me on the Memphis side, it's just kind of a wash. Like you said, if Triple J plays, I don't know if I even trust like his minutes. He missed what, 2 or 3, 4 games, 3 games. I think I'm out on Memphis. I think there's enough spots on the slate that I like that I don't have to play Memphis today. Unless we start getting some stuff where it makes a lot of sense. Maybe we get like a minute's restriction on Triple J, and they're like, hey, he's going to play. And you're like, all right. So, I mean, who knows what they're going to do with Goodwin and Kennard If, like you said, if Goodwin is inactive again, sure, take some shots on Kennard. You get a point guard playing shooting guard on DraftKings. I don't hate it. He's going to shoot threes. If Goodwin plays and he starts, I think at 5,600, he's okay, but he's not sexy by any means.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two outcomes for Goodwin. Either he's going to be active and he starts and plays like 30 minutes, or he's inactive and doesn't play at all, obviously. All right. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Josh made a comment in chat. We didn't even get the news last game. He's absolutely right. Like the projections team, we were trying to just find as much any news nugget as we could because Goodwin wasn't starting. NBA.com is the one that ended up listing him as inactive, and that's why we removed him from projections. Like with I don't know, the lineup came out like 12 minutes before lock, and then Goodwin wasn't in it, so we removed him with like 10 minutes to lock. But definitely a situation to keep your eye on. The reason they've been doing this is because both of those guys are him and Jameson are two-way contracts, and they only have so many games they can make them active for. So this is going to be a thing kind of the rest of the season here until we get to a point where they have enough games remaining where they can just be active every game.
Just think of it this way, everybody. That projections team, absolutely smashing. Glad I'm not on that team. I mean, yeah. Philly side, if Maxey sits and Embiid's out, man, oh man. I think Oubre is the play for me. He's the one that gets the biggest bump when Maxey and Embiid's off the floor. I noticed this when I was doing premium content yesterday or Tuesday, whenever you're listening. And he gets a big bump. He's 5,500. Lowry, I think, is if Lowry plays, like they've been careful on Lowry this season, new team. But if Lowry plays on the second end of a back-to-back after playing 36 minutes, I think you could go back there. If Lowry sits, Cameron Payne is way too cheap with Maxey out and Lowry out. So watch that. But, I mean, my main target here would be Oubre, Lowry. And I think the game environment is going to have me lean off of Tobias Harris in this one.
Yeah, I chased some Tobias Harris and Buddy Hield on Tuesday night. I would probably be out just because of the matchup against Memphis. Their prices have kind of adjusted to the point where even with Maxey out, I'm not sure there's a ton of upside. You would need either of them to score like 30 points, which Oubre is the guy that did it on Tuesday night. Saving the money going down to Oubre, it would probably be the preferred route. I agree with the Lowry call if he plays. I am concerned about him on a back-to-back, but they've been running him out there for big minutes. If he sits, then Cameron Payne, like you said, is probably the best value on the slate. He did start Tuesday night. What did his minutes finish at? I know he got 23 minutes for Payne, even though he was in the starting lineup. I think I'll be chasing Payne either way, even if Lowry is active, just hoping that we get some variance there. Maybe they put Lowry on a minutes limit just because he's an old dude. Like, I don't think they want to run him into the ground. He seems to be an actual part of their rotation plans going forward. So I think I'll take shots on Cameron Payne either way. But if Lowry's out, they don't really have any other point guards. So Payne would be a smash.
Yeah, but Batum played a bunch of minutes too. Maybe his minutes get bumped down a little bit here on the back-to-back as well. So, all right. Hey, back-to-backs are over. No, just kidding. This one has a back-to-back too. My bad. We got the Clippers in Houston. Houston on a back-to-back. This game has a 224.5 total, and the Clippers are a 6.5 point favorites. And then Westbrook is out for the Clippers. Let's start with the Clippers here. I think I'm going to be playing and taking a lot of props on Norman Powell with no Westbrook. His usage is going to be so much higher on that second unit now, and he closes games, and he's going to close more games. Outside of that, I mean, obviously you could always play Harden, Kawhi, or George. Typically when I'm building NBA lineups on Lineup HQ, I just make a group of those guys and make sure I'm not getting a ton of them together. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I approach the Clippers every set. No one can sit here and go, all right, tonight's James Harden's night. He's going to go for 60. Tonight's Kawhi's night. He's going to go for 60. I mean, it's three superstars. Let's call them who they should be called, superstars, playing on the same team together. And one night, one of them's going to have a big night, and one of them's not. It's just how it is.
Yep, that's exactly how I play this team as well. I put all three of them in a group, 0 to 1, and just kind of let the lineup optimizer do its thing. If it's spitting out a little bit too much of Harden, maybe I put a max ownership on him, so I get a little bit of Kawhi or PG. But exact same way, I think you can always chase one of these guys. But I don't generally want to play more than one unless it's like an elite matchup. And Houston's been really solid defensively this season, so definitely not an elite matchup. Even though they're on a back-to-back. All three in play don't even have a lean. You can point to the James Harden revenge narrative, I suppose, if you want to try to find something, but I don't have a ton of belief in that. He played him once earlier this season. I think he was solid, but didn't do anything spectacular. I think Zubac is in play at 5,500. The minutes are always all over the place with him, but I don't mind the matchup against Şengün. And Şengün's presence, assuming that he plays, maybe they set him on the back-to-back, but assuming that Şengün is in there, I think Zubac will have to play minutes in this spot, so I don't mind some shots on him.
Houston side of this one, what are your thoughts here on the Rockets?
Yeah, Şengün coming off the monster performance, put up 82 DK or something like that, I believe. 10x for him.
83.
83 DK for Şengün. What a game. I don't think I'm chasing it on this back-to-back. This is obviously a much different matchup than the Spurs matchup he had on Tuesday night. Clippers have been outstanding on the defensive end. Not a great spot for Houston, just being on the back-to-back. Again, we'll see what the injury report looks like, but assuming that they play the same guys, obviously Eason's out for the year, so we won't be seeing him. But if they have the same crew available that they had Tuesday night, I probably just won't play in Houston.
So I think VanVleet is still too cheap. I said this yesterday. I'm going to stick by it.
He smashed too.
Yeah, he had a great game. He smashed, and Jalen Green hit his point prop. It was a good Houston spot for me. Jalen Green, his usage is up. He's been scoring more. His usage is way up for what it's worth. He's another guy that I'll be looking at his point prop. I think I bet it at, where's my phone? 20.5 on Tuesday. If it's at 20.5 again, I'll probably take the over. His usage is just skyrocketed right now. So like that, like VanVleet, and I don't hate Şengün if he plays. It would come down to ownership for me on him. Anytime you get a guy coming off like an 80-point fantasy game, his ownership is typically bumped up a little bit, recency bias. So like if he's going to be chalky, I feel like I always like being underweight on those types of situations, game theory wise. All right. Hey, now there's no more back-to-backs, right? All right. We got Chicago at Utah, 225.5 total. Chicago, a 3-point favorite in this game. On the Chicago side, Craig is doubtful. Levine and Williams are out, and Terry is questionable. On the Utah side, Keontae George is questionable with the illness. Taylor Hendricks got hurt the other night. He's out. Kessler's still out. Markkanen's still out. Porter's still out. We'll talk about that Utah side in a minute, but I want to talk about Vucevic. Who are they going to match up with Vucevic? And is this we don't see him very often, but is this a Vucevic ceiling spot?
I think it is. I like this spot for Chicago a ton. Last time we were on the podcast, we both love Kobe White. He absolutely did not disappoint. He was incredible. We were targeting those threes. And he was outstanding. Shot 5 for 9 from 3. But I'm kind of with you here. This is a Vooch spot. John Collins is probably the guy starting at the 5 on the other side. If it's Yurt 7, Vucevic is going to eat him alive. So I assume they stick with Collins at the 5 in this spot. Hendricks is out. Kessler is out. They don't have a ton of size. I don't think they trust Yurt 7 either. So it'll be really interesting to see. I think even Drummond is potentially in play. I'm worried about him finding minutes in this spot because of that lack of size on the Utah side. But man, in the 18 minutes or whatever this guy is out there, he should absolutely smash. Like 10 rebounds in 18 minutes would not surprise me. I don't know that I'll go there because the price is still a little bit elevated from when they were running Vooch and Drummond a little bit more together. I don't think this is a spot they will do that. I think Drummond is pretty much limited to strictly backup center minutes in this spot, but we'll see what they do. I think Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu are still very much in play. I like the usage from both of those guys. Price on Ayo is coming up a little bit because he keeps playing really well. He keeps playing upper 30s minutes. 6K is a tough ask, but a matchup against Utah, I think there's still a little meat on the bone there for Ayo.
Yeah, he's my dude, man. Love Ayo.
Taking a nice step forward here, and the Bulls desperately need it from him.
Yeah, I mean, he had another good scoring night the other night, 20 points. Yep. He's just playing a gazillion minutes a night. 6K is probably the right price, right? Like, he might actually be at the price point now where it's a little bit harder to play him. But I will say, like, Utah's an excellent matchup. They play fast, and they don't play a ton of defense. So I don't hate it. Kobe White actually smashed his point prop the other night. Just smashed it. Didn't even think twice about it. He's like, I'm going to get this one over for you really quick. I really like Vooch. Outside of Vooch, DeRozan's like the odd man out for me right now. Like, he's going to have those like games where he scores like 50 plus fantasy points, and I've accepted those. But I think Kobe White, AU, and Vooch just have more ceiling right now. And typically I don't think Vooch has a big ceiling. I just love this like individual matchup for him. I think he's going to crush on the boards. Sorry, John Collins. Like, you're not doing it against Vooch. And he should have some points. So, I mean, I like Vooch a lot in this one. And then going to the Utah situation. Probably the most tilting situation of, what was it, Monday night, right? Was Utah. Yeah. Because, like, Keontae George yeah. And then Hendricks got hurt. And he was sailing. Like, he was sailing. I think his prop was like 17.5, and he was sailing to that prop. So that was just incredibly tilting. And the even more tilting part was like Utah ended up beating Washington, and I had Washington plus 7.5, 14-2 run to end the game. Kuzma hooked us, and Washington absolutely fell apart all within the last like 5 minutes. And I was just
with 5 minutes left in that game, I was certain that 3-pick same game parlay that we put in was hitting. I was like counting the money already.
I was fuming, man. I was like, all right, this morning grind single game parlay, we nailed it. And then just Washington decided they didn't want to score. Like, it was, oh gosh. I was looking at game flow, and with 6 minutes to go, Washington was up by 2. And like, it just makes me lose my mind that 7.5 prop didn't hit. But anyway, Kuzma needed one more bucket. Anyway, let's talk about this Utah situation. We know, like, do we think Clarkson stays off the bench? Is my question. I mean, okay. The first question is, do we think Keontae George plays?
I lean yes, just because it's an illness, but starting a game and not being able to continue shortly at 6 minutes into the game or whatever, like, obviously we have to have some reservations here. I feel like if he's active again, they're certain that he's good to go. But I mean, how can you not be a little bit concerned about it after what he did to us last game?
Yeah, I mean, NBA DFS, right?
Yeah.
You can't project that kind of stuff. You can't project injuries. I know you go in a little hesitant with a guy questionable that plays, but
just to comment on the Clarkson thing real quick, they like him in that 6-man role. They like him just getting a ton of usage
because he's scoring a gazillion points. But he did start the second half for Keontae George the other night.
I still think to begin the game they would keep him off the bench. It doesn't matter though. He's going to play mid-30s minutes in either scenario. It's going to be a fake starter like Samanic or Sensabaugh or even Chris Dunn potentially. I think they like to stagger Sexton and Clarkson a little bit just because they're both such high usage guys.
Dunn started and Clarkson started. So if Keontae George ends up sitting with Hendricks, I wouldn't be shocked if Clarkson and Dunn start. I agree with you. I
think they go back to. I think Samanic got banged up in that game as well. I don't remember if he ended up coming back in it, but I think he might have been like he stayed in the locker room at the half or something because Samanic is the guy that started. I think they would do something similar.
He started the second half though too.
Did he really? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, Hendricks was the guy that got hurt.
Yeah, Hendricks got hurt.
Yeah, like he'll be out for this one too. So who knows?
Fun stuff. Yeah. Vooch should dominate John Collins. I'm just going to keep saying that. I mean, as far as like DFS is concerned, I think Clarkson is your ceiling play. And it's not just because he went for 60 plus fantasy points the other night. Like his role is just really good off the bench. He's going to close both halves and get a lot of usage with second unit. I don't know, man. I don't think I want to touch like Sensabaugh. Jazang got some run the other night. It was 20 minutes. He's 3,300. I think I need Keontae George to be out to play Jazang here. I think it's for me, it's Clarkson, Sexton, Collins, and then I mean, that game is a perfect example of like THT is just not getting extra run. It's just not going to happen. Like with it, when Hendricks went out, I was like, all right, well, maybe THT gets a lot of second half minutes. Nope.
Nope.
All right, we're not playing this guy. Yeah. So like the value options, I don't know if they really matter that much. I will say if Keontae George plays, I have some interest if he's going to be low owned. Just like people got burned by it, and if he is an illness, like if he's good to go, he's going to play 35 plus minutes in a close game. Sign me up. I'll take a shot on him.
Yep, I'm with you on Keontae George. I think the role has been really solid, and he's been finding a ceiling every once in a while since he's been moved into that point guard role. So I'm with you on George. Agree with your sentiments on Sexton and Clarkson. I think they both have crazy ceiling. The value stuff, if George misses, I do think you can take shots on even Samanic. Like he's not a big per minute guy, but I think you could take shots there if he's starting. Sensible, I'm curious to see what the usage looked like. I thought he would have a little more usage. Had a bunch of usage in college. Hasn't had a ton of usage with Utah, but I don't know. I think they want to get a look at him eventually here. So I was surprised to only see him play 21 minutes in that game too. I thought just when the injuries happened, I thought he was for sure going to play like 25, 26 minutes at least.
Well, Zhang had a really good fourth quarter.
They gave it to Zhang instead.
Yeah, he played all 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. Like he was just playing good. I watched that game. I tilted that game. Very hard. I was so tilted. Thunder at Portland, 224.5 total in this game and the Thunder a 12-point favorite. On the Thunder side, Jalen Williams is out. On the Portland side, Ayton is doubtful. Brogdon is out. Kamara and Grant are questionable. Henderson, Sharp, and Williams are out, and Tybal is questionable. Portland's dealing with a lot of injuries. Let's go to the Thunder side. I mean, I think Holmgren, Williams, and SGA are fantastic plays if you think this game stays close. So, like, if you build a game script lineup of this game staying close and want to play any of those three guys, I'm in. I think Holmgren smashes in this spot, especially if Ayton sits. What are your thoughts here on the Thunder?
Yeah, I think I want Ayton and Grant in on the other side to be able to pay up for SGA. Even Holmgren and Jalen Williams, J-Dub, the good one. Like I'm really concerned about a blowout in this spot if Jeremy Grant and DeAndre Ayton sit on the other side. So that injury report news will tell me how I'm playing this. The Portland defense is really bad, so you can certainly take shots if you think this game stays close enough. I think Jalen Williams might be my lean here. Actually, it's Chet Holmgren if Ayton is out. Again, in that situation, I would need Jeremy Grant to even want to be able to chase this, but and then I probably run it back with Grant himself or maybe a Simons. But I definitely think you have to be wary of the blowout risk here. Obviously, any of SGA, Holmgren, and Jalen Williams could find a ceiling in this spot, but you do need the game to stay close.
Portland side, so many injuries, man. Obviously, we're going to wait and see what happens here with Grant and Ayton. If they play, it's going to take away some value for like Reith, Walker. Banton is somebody that, like, if these guys are out, you could play here at 4,400. Simons is someone that I can't tell you the last time I played him. He had a monster game against Minnesota the other night, like huge game. What are your thoughts here on Portland?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the injury report, obviously. I think Jeremy Grant, if he plays, would be my favorite play here. Like if I was playing SGA, he would be my choice to run it back with. I generally don't play Ayton. It is a good rebounding spot, so maybe I have to consider him a little bit more here, but 6,900, is he going to play full minutes after missing a couple of games? I don't feel very comfortable with Ayton. I would much rather play Grant. Simons has had massive usage, so I don't hate taking shots on ceiling there, but saving a little money down to Jeremy Grant is probably my preferred way. If Grant misses, I think you could take shots on Jabari Walker or Kamara if he's in there. Again, there's just so many moving parts on this injury report. Agree with the Banton call. I think he's going to be playable here with Henderson and Brogdon still out. I think he probably starts again. We'll have to see. They could always change up. Like we talked about this last time we talked about Portland. They could change up the starting lineup. We speculated on Higgins a little bit. And actually Higgins was projected to start most of that day. We talked about it
Kamara
before we had
sat
even
too
seen
in that game though.
Yeah, right. Like you're going to need some guys out for sure. Like because they could like if Tybal's in there, he could jump into the starting lineup. There's definitely all kinds of moving parts here.
Hey, Murray showed up the other night too. He had a solid game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was pretty down on him. Like I hadn't seen much from him, but yeah, he did play well in that last one.
It wasn't like he had like a huge fantasy outing. It's just he showed up finally.
Yep.
If Kamara and Tybal sit, that's where I would definitely be playing Banton. I think he plays 30 plus minutes, and when he's had the minutes, he's shot a lot. Like his usage is great when he's on the court. So I think he's chalky. If we get news that Kamara and Tybal sit, I think Banton is chalky.
It depends on when we get the news, though, because Ayton and Grant, as questionable, are going to be projected in all day, and Kamara and Tybal for that matter as well. This is a 10 o'clock game.
Three 10 o'clock games, though.
Yeah, that's true. I guess people will be able to rework it quite a bit. But
look at the 3 10 o'clock games. Look at the 3 10 o'clock games.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, good point.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that Cleveland Atlanta game. That's okay. The Orlando Washington game. That's okay. But like, I think a bulk part of your builds are going to come from these late games. Yeah, maybe we get the news early. Who knows? Maybe they're nice to us, but I doubt it. Milwaukee at Golden State, 228.5 total. In this one, Golden State a 4-point favorites. Sorry, I had the injury report in front of me and I scrolled down. Golden State's good to go. Giannis is questionable. Missed last game. Kind of surprised everybody that he missed the game. And the Middleton's out. Was that a Giannis like legitly questionable with Doc Rivers at coach and him missing the game?
I think this is a legitimate Q tag. Generally, like even in rest situations, they've listed Giannis probable before. Yeah. So because he's actually questionable, I do think this is a legitimate Q tag.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Milwaukee side. I mean, if Giannis plays, I think this is a spot you could definitely play Giannis. If Giannis sits, I mean, you have to love Bobby Portis. Like his usage and shooting is just crazy high for his price with no Giannis, and Lillard is going to be the guy that a lot of people are going to flock to. And I like Lillard, but I think both of those guys would be like the main two plays for me on the Milwaukee side.
Yeah, if Giannis is in there, I definitely want to take some shots on him. Lillard's price climbed a little bit, so I can leave Lillard on the shelf. I think even like this should be a super fast-paced game. Milwaukee plays really fast. Golden State plays sort of fast. But Lillard's price coming up, I probably leave him on the shelf if Giannis is in there. And I just don't have a ton of interest in the rest of Milwaukee with Giannis in there either. If Giannis sits, it becomes a different situation entirely. Portis is an absolute smash, like you said. I would be very much interested in Lillard in that position. We have to talk about what Patrick Beverley did. 34 minutes with
like just absolutely shocked me that it was Beverly over Connaughton.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they announced Connaughton in the starting lineup. And then after lock happens, then they change the starting lineup and it's Patrick Beverly starting instead of Connaughton. It was just a disaster of a situation.
Yeah.
So, but with that being said, you kind of have to consider him at 4K if he's going to play 30 minutes.
Yes. If Giannis sits.
Yeah, of course. Only if Giannis sits.
Gosh, man. Just who had that one in the Jeopardy board, right? No one had Beverly playing 34 minutes the other night. Like even when he got announced starting.
At halftime, and I know there were games at different times and everything, but at halftime, Patrick Beverly was leading the entire slate in fantasy points. It was just stupid.
Anyway, let's talk about this Golden State side. We should mention that, like, if Giannis sits in this game, Portis, I mean, Lopez probably gets run off the floor, and we see more like Jay Crowder. Like, Jay Crowder might play like 28 minutes here. I don't want to play Jay Crowder. It's more of like, I don't want to play Lopez. I think he gets run off the floor in this one.
I'm with you.
All right, Golden State. What do you like here for the Warriors?
It's tough. The Milwaukee defense has been the best in basketball over the last 10 games. You touched on this before. Doc Rivers made a real impact. And the Milwaukee defense that we targeted for much of the season is no longer the same Milwaukee defense. So I am a little hesitant to start jamming in Golden State players, even though I do like the game environment. You have the Chris Paul coming back situation. Like the Klay Thompson playing off the bench situation. Like it's just a mess of a Golden State rotation kind of as well. Gary Payton back healthy. It's just a hard team to figure out. Wiggins missed a couple of games. So they're all a little bit overpriced, in my opinion. I like the game environment. I'll probably click some guys, even though they're not going to grade out all that well in projections. My favorite might be Klay Thompson off the bench, just because he's found a role there. The usage has been a little bit better. He's been shooting a lot better. So Klay Thompson at 6K is probably my favorite click. I think Kuminga is in play. He finds a ceiling every once in a while. You can always pay up for Curry. I want to play Giannis if he's in there in this game, and I just don't think I'm going to have the money to play Giannis and Curry together. So I'm probably looking into the mid-range more than I am going up to Curry.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought is I absolutely want nothing to do with the Warriors today. And like that can change throughout the day, and projections might skew me a little bit, but like Podsy's coming back, Wiggins is coming back, like you mentioned. These guys saw a price increase. They just got absolutely destroyed by Boston.
It was ugly.
Well, it was by 50 something. It was a lot. So, I mean, just nothing like jumping off the page for me. Like maybe a little bit of Draymond, just because like I feel like Draymond gets up for these types of games. But his price is like where it should be. I just nothing jumping off the page for me right now for Golden State. Not with everybody healthy. All right, we finish out this one with Sacramento at LA, taking on the Lakers. 238.5 total in this one. Nobody on the injury report for the Kings. Anthony Davis probable, LeBron questionable, Vincent Wood, Vanderbilt out, and Reddish is probable. So let's talk Sacramento first. What do we like here for the Kings?
Sabonis is probably going to get you his 50 to 55 fantasy points. That's basically what he does every single night. So he's always in play. I think De'Aaron Fox is definitely in play as well. He was on a nice little run there before this most recent injury. The knee injury flared up on him. A little bit of a down game in his first game back after missing a couple, but I think I'm going right back to Fox. Had really started to find a groove there. Now that he's got one game back under his belt, hopefully he can recapture that magic. Had a nice run of 50-point fantasy games going himself. You can take shots on Malik Monk, but I hate the price tag. I think he still has a little ceiling, but it's just going to be a lot harder for him to find a useful fantasy score now that he's up to 6,500. Keegan Murray is in play, but he's kind of priced right, and that's probably about it. I mean, it's mainly Fox and Sabonis for me.
I don't really have anything else to add, and I'm trying to talk less. God, it's starting to get me. Like this is the time that it got me last night, and it's getting me again. Lakers
almost
side
power through.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I need to cough really bad, so I'll do that in a second. But Lakers side of this one, I know he's 7K, but I really like D'Angelo Russell today. Like, this is the spot that Russell could just go bonkers.
And he's been doing it frequently. I mean, he fell out of favor middle of the season. It was whatever. They moved him to the bench for a while. Since he's returned to the starting lineup, it just seems like every other night he's going for like 45, 50 fantasy points. The dude has had a real ceiling here over the past, and we're talking about like a month and a half, 2 months at this point. I'm totally with you. Like, yeah, of course AD and LeBron are great, but don't forget about D'Angelo Russell because he absolutely can find a ceiling. I think Austin Reeves is kind of similar. He hasn't found the ceiling quite as much, so I definitely prefer Russell. But fast-paced game, the Kings get crushed from threes. We say it all the time. Reeves can certainly put up a ton of threes. So can D'Angelo Russell. So I'm completely with you. I love AD and LeBron also. I'll have some, but I will have plenty of D'Angelo Russell, probably more than AD and LeBron.
Price-wise, it's a price thing. It comes down to price. I just bet Reeves over 1.5 threes. I think that this is I thought that's just a little low. So I like it.
Yeah, that's a 3 too low in my opinion. Yep.
Yeah, I like it. Couldn't bet Russell's. Russell's was like 2.5 at like -165. So couldn't bet that one. I'll take Reeves 3-point prop there. So like that one. Let's play the morning grind game before I die on air. The NyQuil is ready. I'm so excited. Can't wait. Favorite play under 5K to go 7X. Who is your ceiling plan? Cheap.
I'm concerned about the minutes, and if Kyle Lowry doesn't play, then I know the answer. So this can always change, of course. But as of right now, with Lowry projecting in or no injury report for Philadelphia, I'm going to go to Rashawn Holmes. He's going to have some type of role. I am concerned about the minutes. Maybe he doesn't play more than 20, and he doesn't get there. But if he gets 20 minutes, I think he can absolutely smash his $3,800 price tag.
I thought you were going to take my guy. I was like, really? You started talking about Lowry being out? I like Cameron Payne a lot today. He's 4,100. Yeah. Maxey concussion, highly doubtful to play in this one. Lowry on a back-to-back. Batum on a back-to-back. Both played over 30 minutes. Cam Payne only played like 23 minutes. Cam Payne is a guy that can handle 30 minutes. He's a great fantasy point per minute producer. I like Payne. And like Yeezy just said, Banton in chat. Banton is a fantastic play depending on who's in and who's out for Portland. So that is another one that you could definitely look at. Yep. Over 8K to go under 5X. Who's your bust today?
I'm going to go Steph Curry. That Milwaukee defense is no joke at this point. Like, he could certainly explode. It's a matchup of stars. Steph kind of shows up for those spots a lot of times. But he's been shooting pretty poorly. Had a really rough game last time out. So maybe this is the redemption spot, but I'll lean on the Milwaukee defense to hold him down.
I go to DeJounte Murray at 9,500 in a matchup with Cleveland. Again, I feel like DeJounte has ceiling in any matchup, but 9,500 against Cleveland is a steep price tag. I'm going to pass on Murray today. Too many plays in this range that I like more than DeJounte today. Favorite 6X play?
I'm going to go Darius Garland. Love the matchup for him against Atlanta. Price tag is up, but no Donovan Mitchell again. And now we're removing Evan Mobley as well. So great spot for Darius Garland.
We go Jared Allen. Again, love this spot for Jared Allen. I think he crushes this $7,300 price tag. We saw his upside with no Mobley, and now he's getting no Mobley, no Mitchell. Love Allen in this spot against Atlanta. Let's get weird GPP play of the day. Who do you got for us today?
I think the field's going to be terrified to go back to Keontae George after what he did to the entire industry in his last game. Yeah. There's a much tougher spot against a slow-paced Chicago team, but George has had a nice ceiling here recently. So I will click the button and hope he doesn't absolutely roast me again. But Keontae George.
So I wrote down D'Angelo Russell, and I did not expect you to like him as much as I liked him. Now I'm concerned. I thought 7K is his ownership would be lower.
It will. I don't think people like clicking D'Angelo Russell at all. And I think that not a ton of people realize how great of a 3-point matchup the Kings are as either. You're the one that got me onto that. The Kings allow the highest 3-point percentage in the league, and we should target 3-point shooters against them. I don't think the entire field necessarily realizes that. It's hard to bake into projections as well. So I don't think he'll be projecting great at 7K.
Yeah, I mean, and the best thing about D'Angelo Russell too is once he starts chucking and making some, he's not going to stop chucking.
Yeah.
And when he's missing, he's still going to chuck. So, I mean, you're likely going to get 6 to 12 3-point attempts here from D'Angelo Russell against the best matchup you could have for 3 points. So, I like Russell a lot. Let's go to the betting portion of the morning grind game. Any player props or pick 'em plays that you like here?
There weren't a ton out before we jumped on the show here because a lot of teams on back-to-back. There are a few more that have popped up since we jumped on, so I'm quickly scanning to see if there's anything that's jumping out to me. Let's see here. Ayo Dosunmu, 14.5 points. Looks pretty good. I like the over there. Kobe's up to 23.5. I don't hate that, but I prefer that at 21.5. Let's go ahead and make that Ayo Dosunmu pick the official one. We'll go Ayo Dosunmu over 14.5 points. Love the matchup against the Jazz. Super fast-paced team. Don't play any defense.
I'm going to actually stay in the Chicago lane as well and go Vucevic over 32.5 points and rebounds. We talked about this matchup for him. Big injuries on the Utah side inside in the paint. Kessler's out, Hendrick's out, Markkanen's out. Absolutely love this spot for Vooch. And I think that this number at 32.5 doesn't really represent like the guys that he's going to be matching up with here. And yeah, I like Vooch a lot. So that's my one. And I didn't have any lines that I like. So I like this D'Angelo Russell over 17.5 points as well. We love shooters. We just got done talking about it. He's played them twice this year. He's averaging 22 points against them. His role is a lot better right now than it has been throughout the season. So really like this spot for D'Angelo Russell and like that over 17.5 points number. Anything else you want to add, Keith?
I was looking at that Philly -5. Like that's telling me that Jaren Jackson's probably playing in this spot, right?
Listen,
Memphis
you cannot convince me to bet Philly at all right now.
That's probably fair, especially without
the
Maxey.
Brooklyn game.
Yeah, you're probably right there, but that's one that kind of stood out to me. Not an official play by any means, but I'll look into that one a little bit more overnight for sure.
Yeah, no chance. Betting Philly, and like that's like the third or fourth time this year where I was like, they should crush this spot, and they failed. So yeah, I'm probably out. The one that was like somewhat jumping off to me a little bit here was Cleveland +1 against Atlanta. Both those teams on a back-to-back. I don't hate that one, but I didn't bet anything yet as far as like lines go. So, Keith, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Don't think I have anything else.
All right, I'm gonna go take some NyQuil. Hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. We're back tomorrow talking hoops. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.